September 1944. The Lorraine Campaign, France. Sector, 4th Armored Division, U.S. versus 111th Panzer Brigade, German. The mud in Lorraine was different. It wasn't just dirt and water. It was a living, sucking thing. It pulled boots off feet and dragged tracks off tanks. Inside the Château de Lunéville, the mud was not allowed. The floors were polished marble. The chandeliers, miraculously, were still intact. General Oberst Heinrich von Stenger stood by the window, swirling a glass of stolen French cognac. He was a caricature of the aristocratic Prussian officer, tall, scar on his left cheek, uniform pressed to razor sharpness despite 3 years of war. "They are late," he murmured. "The Americans?" his aide, Major Kleist, asked. "No, the rain," von Stenger said, turning around. "The Americans are never late. They are simply clumsy." On the large oak table in the center of a room lay a situation map. It showed von Stenger's fresh reinforcements, the 111th Panzer Brigade, brand new Panther tanks, crews trained in the east, a hammer designed to smash the American advance. Outside in the courtyard, a prize sat on display. It was a captured American M4 Sherman tank. It looked small, boxy, and absurdly high-profile compared to the sleek, low-slung German Panthers. "Come, Major," von Stenger said, putting down his glass. "Let us inspect the enemy's finest engineering." They walked out into the courtyard. The rain was drizzling. A group of German mechanics was examining the Sherman. They stood at attention as the general approached. Von Stenger walked up to the side of the Sherman. He rapped his knuckles against the hull armor. Clung, clung. "Listen to that," von Stenger laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "It rings like a bell." "How thick is this?" 50 millimeters. "Yes, Herr General," a mechanic replied. "Vertical plate. Inferior casting." Von Stenger shook his head, a smile playing on his lips. "It is an insult to the art of warfare. We give our men tigers and panthers, beasts of steel. The Americans give their boys tin cans. They mass-produce them like washing machines." He climbed up the side of the tank, his boots muddying the white star painted on the hull. He looked down into the commander's hatch. Cramped. "Smells of gasoline," he noted. "They call these Ronsons, yes? Because they light up the first time you strike them?" The staff officers chuckled politely. "General," Major Kleist interrupted, pointing to the map case he was holding. "Intelligence reports a column of these Ronsons moving through the fog near Encircled. About 30 of them, unsupported." Von Stenger jumped down from the tank. He wiped his gloves. 30 of them. He looked at his own forces on the map. He had 40 Panthers waiting in the mist. "Send the 1st Battalion. Crush them. Do not just defeat them, Major. Run them over. I want the wreckage of these toys littering the road to Nancy by dinner." "Sir, the weather." Kleist hesitated. "The fog is thick. Visibility is 0. Perfect, von Stenger schmiedet. The Panther has excellent optics. The Americans will be blind. It will be a slaughter." He didn't know it yet, but he was right. It will be a slaughter, just not the one he expected. 5 miles away, near Encircled, U.S. 4th Armored Division. Call sign, Easy 8. Sergeant Buck Miller poured the last of his canteen water into the radiator of his tank. It hissed violently. "She's running hot, Buck," his driver, Alvarez, shouted over the idling engine. "Everything's running hot, Alvarez. It's the mud. It's clogging the intakes," Buck replied, wiping grease from his forehead. Buck Miller was 24, but he looked 40. His eyes were sunk deep into his skull, rimmed with red exhaust fume irritation. He leaned against his tank, the Kansas City Kitty. It was an M4A3 Sherman. To General von Stenger, it was a tin can. To Buck, it was home. But Buck knew the truth. He knew about the Panthers. "Sarge." Buck turned. Lieutenant Calloway was walking down the line of muddy tanks. Calloway was a good officer, meaning he listened to his sergeants. "What's the word, LT?" Buck asked. "Recon says we got heavy armor moving in from the east. Sound contacts only. Fog's too thick to see him." "Heavy armor?" Buck spat a glob of tobacco juice into the mud. "Tigers. Probably Panthers. A lot of them." The crew of Kansas City Kitty went silent. Alvarez stopped tinkering with the engine. The loader, a kid named Smitty, looked like he was about to vomit. A Sherman versus a Panther was simple math. The Panther's 75mm high-velocity gun could kill a Sherman from 2,000 yards. The Sherman's 75mm gun couldn't penetrate the front of a Panther at point-blank range. You had to get around the side. You had to be fast. "We holding the line?" Buck asked. "No," Calloway said. He had a strange look in his eye. "We're retreating." "Retreating?" Buck frowned. The 4th Armored didn't retreat. Patton didn't believe in it. "Not retreating," Calloway corrected himself, checking his map. "We're baiting. HQ wants us to pull back to the ridgeline. There's a depression in the ground behind Hill 318. We sit there. We wait. Wait for what?" "For them to get arrogant," Calloway said. "Orders are to show ourselves, fire a few shots, and run. Make them chase us." Buck looked at the fog swirling around the trees. "If a Panther chases us, LT, he catches us. Just get the engine running cool, Buck. You're going to need the speed." The clash. 30 minutes later, the world ended. It started with a sound, a high-pitched screech of metal tracks that was distinctively German. Then, the ground began to tremble. Buck stood in his hatch, peering into the gray soup of the fog. "Driver, engine on. Ready to reverse," he whispered into the intercom. "I can't see SHD, Sarge," his gunner, Kowalski, complained. "Wait for the flash," Buck said. Suddenly, a purple tracer round zipped out of the fog, 10 feet above their turret. Crack! The air pressure slap was instantaneous. "Contact front!" Buck screamed. "Driver, reverse! Reverse!" The Sherman jerked backward, tracks spinning in the slush. Out of the mist, they appeared. 3 of them. Panthers. They looked like prehistoric sharks, their sloped frontal armor glistening with rain. They were moving confidently, driving right down the center of the road. Boom! The lead Panther fired. The Sherman to Buck's left, Lucky Lady, took the hit. There was no explosion, just a spark shower as the shell punched through the front plate like a hole puncher through paper. The tank stopped dead. A second later, flames roared out of the hatches. "Jesus Christ!" Smitty yelled. "Ignore it. Keep moving back." Buck ordered. "Gunner, give them a smoke shell. Blind them." Kowalski fired the 75mm. The white phosphorus shell hit the mud in front of the Panthers, blooming into a cloud of white smoke. "We're running, Sarge. We look like cowards," Alvarez yelled from the driver's pit. "That's the point." Buck yelled back. "We're the cheese in the mousetrap. Go, go, go." The German HQ. General von Stenger held the radio handset, a smile spreading across his face. "They are running, Herr General," the field commander reported. "They fired smoke and are retreating in panic. We have destroyed 2 already." Von Stenger looked at Major Kleist. "You see? No discipline. They see superior engineering and they break. Should we hold position and secure the town?" Kleist asked cautiously. "No." Von Stenger balked. "Pursue them. Do not let them regroup. Drive them into the river. Full attack speed." The order went out. "Vorwärts. Forward." The 111th Panzer Brigade, sensing blood, broke formation. They abandoned their infantry support. They gunned their powerful Maybach engines and charged into the fog, chasing the fleeing tin cans. They were driving fast. Too fast. They were driving blind. The kill zone. Buck Miller's tank skidded around the corner of a farmhouse. Mud spraying 10 feet in the air. "All right, get behind the barn," Buck ordered. The Sherman slammed into position, hidden from the road by a stone wall. Around them, other Shermans were doing the same. They weren't retreating anymore. They were scattering into the landscape, hiding in barns behind hedgerows, in ditches. The radio crackled. It was Calloway. "All units. Cut engines. Silence. Wait for them to pass." "Cut engines," Alvarez whispered. "If we cut the engine, we can't traverse the turret fast." "Do it," Buck hissed. The engine died. The vibration stopped. Now, there was only the sound of the rain. Pat, pat, pat on the steel hull. And then the roar. The German column was thundering down the road. They were moving fast, chasing the retreating Americans. It didn't check the flanks. Why would they? The Americans were running away. Through the vision slit, Buck watched. 1 Panther. 2 Panthers. 5. 10. They rolled past the hidden Shermans, their long barrels pointed forward, hunting for targets ahead. They were exposing their sides, their engine decks, their weak spots. Buck's heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Wait, wait, wait. The lead Panther passed Buck's barn. Then the second. The side armor of a Panther is only 45 millimeters thick. A Sherman gun can punch that at 500 yards. Buck was at 50 yards. Calloway's voice broke the silence on the radio. One word: execution. Buck kicked the gunner's shoulder. Fire. September 1944. The Encircled ambush. 9:05 hours. The silence of the French countryside didn't break. It shattered. When the gunner of Kansas City Kitty, Kowalski, slammed his foot on the firing pedal, the 75 millimeters gun recoiled violently. They were less than 60 yards from the passing Panther. At that range, ballistics charts didn't matter. The shell didn't arc, it punched. Wham! The armor-piercing round struck the Panther's flank, right above the road wheels. It was the German tank's Achilles heel, only 40 millimeters of steel protecting the ammunition storage. The result was catastrophic. The Panther didn't just stop, it shuddered as if kicked by a giant. A split second later, a jet of white-hot flame erupted from the commander's cupola, shooting 30 feet into the misty air. The ammunition inside had cooked off, turning the crew compartment into a blast furnace. "Got him!" Kowalski screamed, his voice cracking. "Load fresh. Up. Next target." The one behind him. Buck Miller roared, grabbing the commander's override joystick to spin the turret. "Don't let them turn." All along the road, the trap snapped shut. From barns, ditches, and haystacks, 30 American Shermans opened fire simultaneously. It was a firing squad. The German column, moments ago a disciplined machine of destruction, dissolved into chaos. The lead tanks were hit first, blocking the road. The rear tanks were hit next, sealing the exit. The tanks in the middle were trapped in a kill zone of mud and fire. Inside the German column, Captain Gunther, commander of the lead Panther Company, was screaming into his headset. "Contact right. Contact left. They are everywhere." He looked through his periscope. He couldn't see the enemy. The fog and the smoke from the burning lead tanks created a wall of gray. He could only see the muzzle flashes of the Shermans, like camera strobes flashing in the mist. "Traverse right. Target the flash," Gunther ordered. His gunner spun the turret. The massive 75 millimeters long barrel gun of the Panther was a sniper's weapon, perfect for long-range duels. But here, in a muddy lane at point-blank range, it was a curse. The barrel was so long it knocked against a telephone pole as they tried to turn. Clang. "We are blocked," the gunner panicked. "The barrel is stuck." "Reverse," Gunther screamed, but they couldn't reverse. The tank behind them was burning. Then, a shell from a Sherman hiding in a cow shed hit Gunther's turret ring. The gears jammed. The mighty Panther was now just a 45-ton metal box with a gun pointing the wrong way. "Bail out," Gunther yelled. "Get out." He threw open the hatch. The air outside was filled with tracer fire. As he scrambled off the engine deck, he looked at the field. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. The tin cans were eating them alive. General von Stenger's HQ, 10 miles away. The mood in the chateau had shifted from arrogance to confusion. General von Stenger stood over the radio operator, his knuckles white as he gripped the back of a chair. "Repeat that, Commander," von Stenger said, his voice dangerously low. "We are taking heavy casualties," the voice on the radio crackled, drowned out by explosions. "They were waiting for us. We are hit from the flanks. 1st Battalion is combat ineffective." "Impossible," von Stenger hissed. "Shermans cannot penetrate the Panther's frontal armor. They aren't shooting the front, her general. They are shooting the sides. They are in the houses. They are in the trees." Von Stenger snatched the microphone. "Turn into them. Face your frontal armor toward the enemy. Do not retreat. We cannot turn. The mud. The road is blocked with wrecks. We are sitting ducks." Static cut the line. Von Stenger threw the handset onto the table. He walked to the window. The rain was falling harder now. "Major Kleist," he said. "Sir, the Americans set a trap," von Stenger said, realizing the magnitude of his mistake. They used their weakness as bait. I looked at the tank, but I did not look at the map. What are your orders, General? Von Stenger turned, his eyes cold. Send in the 2nd Battalion, the Tigers, and the Panzer Grenadiers. We will not be humiliated by farm boys and tractors. Burn that village to the ground. The duel in the mist. Back at the ambush site, the turkey shoot was over. Now, the real fight began. The surviving German tanks had managed to pop smoke grenades and back off the road into the fields. They were wounded, angry, and looking for revenge. Buck Miller's tank, Kansas City Kitty, was moving. We can't stay here, Sarge, Alvarez said, wrestling the steering levers. They know where we are. Move to the ridge, Buck ordered. Keep the hull down. The Sherman crawled up a muddy embankment. The fog was lifting slightly, revealing the carnage on the road below. 12 Panthers were burning, but there were more out there in the gray soup. Movement. De Zoclock. Smitty yelled. Buck looked. Emerging from the fog, like a ghost ship, was a Panther. But this one was different. It wasn't panicked. It was moving slowly, stalking. Its turret was already pointed at them. Driver left. Hard left. Buck screamed. Alvarez jerked the tank. The Sherman slid in the mud. Zoom. The Panther's shell missed them by inches. The air pressure wave knocked Buck's helmet off. The shell hit a tree behind them, shattering it into splinters. He missed. Fire. Buck yelled. Kowalski fired. Bang. The shell hit the Panther's front plate. Ricochet. The round bounced off the thick German steel like a pebble off a windshield. It flew harmlessly into the sky. Didn't even scratch him. Kowalski yelled. Front armor is too thick. The Panther was reloading. Buck knew the timing. They had about 8 seconds before the next shot. We can't pin him from the front. Buck realized. Alvarez, charge him. What? Charge him. Get close. We need to get around his side. He'll kill us. He'll kill us if we sit here. Go. The Sherman engine roared. The 30-ton tank lurched forward, sliding down the embankment straight toward the Panther. It was a game of chicken, a heavyweight boxer versus a lightweight scrapper. The German commander must have been stunned. The American tank wasn't running away. It was sprinting right at him. Inside the Panther, the gunner was frantically trying to track the fast-moving target. The Panther's manual turret traverse was slow. The Sherman was fast. Keep moving. Don't drive in a straight line. Buck yelled. They were 200 yards away. 100 yards. 50 yards. Buck could see the Simmerit anti-magnetic paste on the Panther's hull. He could see the muzzle brake of the 75mm gun. He's traversing. Smitty screamed. He's gonna fire. The Panther's gun swung toward them. Alvarez hit the brakes. Skid. Alvarez slammed the brakes. The Sherman locked its tracks. It slid sideways in the mud, drifting like a rally car. Boom! The Panther fired. Because of the skid, the German shot went wide. It tore off the storage box on the back of the Sherman, sending sea rations and blankets exploding into the air, but the tank survived. Now, they were side by side, passing each other at 20 miles per hour. Traverse left. Point blank. Buck screamed. The Sherman's turret spun. They were so close Buck could almost reach out and touch the German tank. Fire. Kowalski pulled the trigger. The gun barrel was literally 3 feet from the Panther's side turret ring. The explosion rocked both tanks. The Sherman shell didn't just penetrate. It smashed the Panther's turret mechanism. The German tank ground to a halt. Smoke poured out of the hatches, but it didn't explode. Did we get him? Smitty asked. Buck grabbed his Thompson submachine gun and popped his hatch. He looked over at the Panther. The German commander's hatch opened. A man climbed out, his face bloody, his uniform smoking. He looked at Buck. Buck looked at him. They were 5 meters apart. The German raised his hands. He looked defeated. He looked at the tin-can Sherman that had just bested his superior machine. Buck didn't fire. He just pointed down the road. Walk, he mouthed. The German nodded slowly and stumbled away into the mist. Clear, Buck said, dropping back into the turret. Good driving, Alvarez. I peed my pants, Sarge, Alvarez said. Me too, kid. Me too. The calm before the storm. By noon, the firing had stopped. The graveyard of German armor lay smoking on the road to Encircled. The Americans had destroyed 21 Panthers and lost only 3 Shermans. It was a tactical miracle. Lieutenant Calloway gathered the tank commanders behind a stone wall. He looked grim. "Good work, boys." "But the party's over," Calloway said. "We heading back to base?" Buck asked, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "No," Calloway said. "Recon plane just radioed in. The fog is lifting." He pointed to the east. The gray curtain was thinning. The sun was trying to break through. "And Von Stenger is emptying the cupboard," Calloway continued. "He's sending everything. Panzer IVs, grenadiers, and a heavy tank battalion." "Heavy?" Buck asked. "You mean Tiger IIs," Calloway said quietly. "King Tigers." The men went silent. A King Tiger weighed 70 tons. Its front armor was impenetrable to any gun the Americans had. Its 88mm gun could kill them from 3 miles away. "If the fog lifts," Calloway said, looking at the sky, "they can sit on the hill and pick us off one by one. We need that fog to stay." As if on cue, the wind picked up. The mist began to swirl and dissipate. A ray of sunlight hit the mud. Buck looked at his Sherman. It was dented, muddy, and low on ammo. "Well," Buck said, stamping out his cigarette, "I guess we find out if tin cans can float." From the distance, a deep, rhythmic thumping sound began. Not the high-pitched whine of the Panthers. A low, guttural throb. The Kings were coming. September 1944. The ridge at Encircled. 1300 hours. The sun finally broke through the clouds. It should have been a moment of hope, feeling the warmth after days of freezing rain. Instead, it was a death sentence. With the fog gone, the kill zone was open. On the far hill, 2,000 yards away, they appeared. 3 of them. Tiger IIs. King Tigers. They didn't look like tanks. They looked like mobile bunkers. 70 tons of angled steel. An 88mm gun barrel, so long it looked like it could poke the eye out of God. They sat on the ridgeline, hull down, impervious to anything the Americans had. "Range 2,000. Kowalski yelled, his eye pressed to the scope. "They're looking right at us." "Reverse. Get behind the crest." Buck screamed. Too late. The lead King Tiger fired. The high-velocity shell crossed the valley in less than 2 seconds. It slammed into Lieutenant Calloway's tank, Lucky 13, which was positioned 50 yards to Buck's left. There was no bounce, no ricochet. The shell went through the Sherman's turret front, through the fighting compartment, through the engine block, and exited the rear. The tank didn't explode, it just died. Smoke poured lazily from the holes. "Calloway's gone," Alvarez whispered over the intercom. "Just like that." "They're picking us off," Smitty cried, ramming a shell into the breach with trembling hands. "We can't hit them. Our shells will bounce off at this range." Buck looked at the battlefield. The King Tigers were stationary. They knew they were invincible. They were playing a point-and-click video game with the American lives. "We need air support," Buck yelled into the radio. "Dogface to Air Corps. We have heavy armor in the open. We're the damn Jabos." "Static. Dogface, this is Danny Boy. Squadron is inbound. ETA 5 minutes. Hang Dai." 5 minutes. Buck looked at the Tigers reloading. "In 5 minutes will be scrap metal." The general's view. On the hill, General von Stenger watched through high-powered binoculars. He lit a cigarette, the smoke curling around his gloved fingers. "Beautiful," he murmured. "See, Major? The Tiger II is the pinnacle of evolution. The Americans scurry like cockroaches." "The Americans are requesting air support, General," Major Kleist warned, looking nervously at the clearing sky. "Let them come," von Stenger dismissed. "Our flak panzers will shred them. Today, we retake Encircled. Order the Tigers to advance. Crush them. The suicide run." Buck Miller saw the Tigers lurch forward. They were descending the hill, coming down to finish the job. "Sarge, what do we do?" Alvarez asked. "We can't penetrate them." Buck looked at the mud in the valley floor. It was deep, thick, a slurry of clay and rain. Then he looked at his Sherman. It weighed 30 tons. The King Tiger weighed 70. "Physics," Buck muttered. "Alvarez, listen to me. I want you to drive straight at them." "Are you crazy?" "Not straight at their guns. Buck corrected. Head for the marsh. The low ground. We'll get stuck. We might, Buck said, but they definitely will. If we can lure them into the soft ground, they'll sink. A stuck tank is a dead tank. This is suicide, Kowalski groaned. It's better than dying on this hill. Driver, advance. Flank speed. Kansas City Kitty roared out of cover. The engine screamed as Alvarez floored it. They didn't shoot. They just drove, a lone olive-drab beetle sprinting across a field of death. The German commanders saw the movement. The lead King Tiger slowly rotated its massive turret. It was like a battleship gun tracking a speedboat. Boom! A shell landed 10 feet behind the Sherman, spraying mud over the engine deck. Chet e geisha! Buck yelled. Make him work for it. Alvarez yanked the sticks left, then right. The Sherman bounced violently over the craters. They were closing the distance. 1,000 yards. 800 yards. He's tracking us. Smitty screamed. Into the mud. Go! Alvarez steered the tank into the low-lying marshland at the bottom of the valley. The tracks churned up black sludge. The Sherman slowed down, struggling. 15 miles per hour. 10 miles per hour. Come on, baby, don't quit on me, Buck prayed. The King Tiger took the bait. The German commander, arrogant and eager for the kill, turned his massive tank to follow. He drove off the firm road and into the marsh. For the first 50 feet, the Tiger's momentum carried it. But then gravity took over. 70 tons of German steel met French mud. The wide tracks of the Tiger began to spin. The tank sank. First 6 inches, then a foot. The belly of the tank hit the mud. The engine roared, black smoke billowing, but the beast wasn't moving. It had dug its own grave. He's stuck, Buck yelled. He's bogged down. He can still shoot, Kowalski warned. The Tiger's turret was still turning, trying to line up a shot on the slow-moving Sherman. Hit his track, Buck ordered. Don't let him turn the hull. Kowalski fired. Clang. The 75mm shell hit the Tiger's drive sprocket. The track snapped like a watch band, unspooling into the mud. Now the Tiger was truly immobilized, but the gun was still traversing. The black hole of the 88mm muzzle was looking right at them. Bail out, Buck screamed. Everyone out. The crew scrambled out of the hatches and dove into the muddy water of the swamp. Kaboom! The King Tiger fired. The shell hit Kansas City Kitty dead center. The Sherman disintegrated. The turret flew off. The hull split open. The fuel tanks ignited, sending a fireball rolling over the marsh. Buck lifted his head from the mud, gasping for air. His face was covered in slime. He looked at his burning tank. His home. Gone. Sound off, he choked out. Alvarez? Smitty. I'm here, Sarge. Alvarez coughed, dragging Smitty by the collar. Smitty was bleeding from his nose, stunned but alive. Kowalski popped up a few yards away. We're alive, Buck whispered. We're alive. The King Tiger commander opened his hatch. He looked at the burning Sherman, then at the Americans in the mud. He began to reach for his MP-40 submachine gun to finish them off. Then he heard it, a low rumble, but not from a tank, from the sky. The cavalry. Look up, Buck yelled, pointing. Out of the sun, they came. 4 silver angels with painted noses. P-47 Thunderbolts. They didn't just fly, they dived. The scream of their engines was terrifying. Under their wings, Buck could see the rockets, VARs. The Holy Moses. Danny Boy to Dogface. The radio in Buck's helmet, which was lying in the mud, crackled. Sorry we're late. Traffic was hell. Clearing the table now. The lead P-47 unleashed a salvo of rockets. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The rockets didn't care about the King Tiger's frontal armor. They struck the roof, the engine deck, the turret top. The stuck King Tiger vanished in a cloud of smoke and debris. The ammunition inside detonated, blowing the massive turret clean off the hull. The other King Tigers on the hill tried to reverse, to run for the trees. But the Thunderbolts were sharks in a frenzy. They strafed the German tanks with .50 caliber machine guns and dropped 500-pound bombs. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was nature cleaning up a mistake. The fall of the general. General von Stenger dropped his binoculars. His beautiful armored column was burning. His King Tigers were scrap metal. His Panthers were gutted. The sky belonged to the Americans. General, Major Clyce said, his voice trembling. We must evacuate. The Jabos, they will target the chateau next. Von Stenger looked at the American Sherman in the courtyard, the captured one he had mocked earlier. The tin can. It sat there, silent, mocked. But its brothers out in the field had held the line. They had sacrificed themselves to stop the elite of the Reich. It wasn't the tank, von Stenger whispered, realizing the truth too late. It was the men inside. A shadow fell over the courtyard. The roar of a Pratt & Whitney engine filled the room. Von Stenger looked up through the window, just as the P-47 released its bomb. Epilogue. Buck Miller sat on the edge of a crater, smoking a wet cigarette he had found in his waterproof tin. The medics were patching up Smitty's head. Alvarez was staring at the burning wreck of Kansas City Kitty. A jeep pulled up. A colonel jumped out. You Miller? Yes, sir. You guys held off a Panzer brigade with a platoon of Shermans. That's one for the history books, son. Buck looked at the mud. He looked at the shattered King Tiger, sinking into the swamp 100 yards away. History books won't say how scared we were, Colonel. Maybe not, but they'll say you won. The colonel looked at the burning Sherman. Sorry about your tank. Buck stood up, wiping the mud from his face. He looked at the flaming wreckage. It was ugly. It was cheap. It was thin-skinned, but had done its job. It's just a tin can, sir, Buck said, flicking his cigarette into the mud. They make plenty more in Detroit, but they don't make men like Smitty and Alvarez on an assembly line. He turned to his crew. Come on, boys. Let's go find us a new ride. Berlin is still a long walk. They began the long trek back to the rear, leaving the graveyard of steel behind them. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the twisted metal of the German arrogance and the burnt husks of American grit. The end.